Hey all, welcome back to the Well-Rounded Dad. Today we have our first desk discussion. Today I want to talk about the question, is being a stay-at-home dad the right choice for you and your family? Now, for myself, I've been a stay-at-home dad now for a year and a half. It's actually been really great for us. And in fact, it's been the best arrangement that we've had. We spent most of our adult life both working, even after having a child, and even spent a little time where I was the sole provider, and my wife was a stay-at-home mom. So, I want to talk about a few things. One, is it the right thing for you and your family? Is it the right fit for you? I want to talk about some pros and cons. And then I also want to just bring out some other things that you may want to consider. I'm speaking mostly to the dads here, but if you're the lady of the house, this is a whole family decision, so the same thing is going to be applicable as we go through it. So the first thing is the obvious stuff. Is this something you would really like to do? I've heard it said before, if you're really scared of guns, you probably shouldn't be a police officer. Okay, or if you're really squeamish, you probably shouldn't be a nurse. So some of that's just like low-hanging fruit to this decision is, do you see yourself enjoying or at least tolerating, in a good way, cleaning, cooking, spending the majority of the time with your children? And not just that, but is it a good fit? Do you have that attention to detail? Are you self-motivated? When you clean something and you do a really good job, does that give you that sense of accomplishment? Do you like to maybe cook something special every now and again, try a new recipe? Those are things that are going to be really important. If the answer is no, and that's something that just sounds terrible to you, then obviously no, this is not the right fit. If it's something that you feel like you can, then you kind of go to the next obvious question. Can you and your family afford it? Now, I'm not naive. This is not something that I take lightly. A lot of people have to have two incomes to survive, and that's just the nature of the world today, the nature of the USA, the economy. But before you say a quick no, do take into consideration there is some ways that you could potentially make up some of that difference. For instance, think about the fact that you won't be... Sorry, I froze there. Think about the fact that you're not going to be driving to work every day, paying for that gas. Think about, especially if you're in a situation where you're both very busy with your work, travel, whatever it might be, and you pay someone to cut your grass, clean your house. Okay, you take those into consideration. You also want to take into consideration the primary thing, which is daycare, which is outrageously expensive. So when you're doing these calculations to see if it works for you and your family, definitely make sure that you're factoring those in also. Last on the financials is, obviously there's always a little bit of fat that we can cut. Is there enough that you can make it work? The last thing you want to do is be super financially stressed during this transition time. It's not going to be probably good for you and your family. So do a lot of planning before you go into this. That brings me to my next point. Both spouses need to be on board. Excuse me. This is not something that one person's gung-ho and the other person really doesn't want to see it happen or doesn't like the idea, and that somehow you're just going to push it and make it work. This is something that really everybody's got to be like, hey, this is what we want. This is what we think is going to work best for us, to be able to go ahead and do that. Let me talk about some of the cons first. One, you got to make sure that your ego can handle it, because it's a little bit of a kick to the ego. There's stereotypes of what a stay-at-home dad is and the type of person that is. I never thought I would be one, but I've been really pleased with what I've been able to do thus far. But that first time or two that you're somewhere and somebody says, "Hey, what do you do for a living? What's your job?" And the first couple of times saying I'm a stay-at-home dad, honestly, it's kind of weird. So, and people's reactions can be kind of weird. I think the first couple of times I was asked, I just was caught off guard, and I was like, "Oh, I'm in between jobs right now, or taking some time off." So, I've gotten to the point, obviously, where I say, "Yeah, I'm a stay-at-home dad," and let the chips fall where they may. But you got to be okay with that. There's also going to be a lot of people that hate on you about it. Okay, there's going to be people their reactions might not be that savory. They might kind of brush you off, and there's probably going to be someone in your sphere that doesn't think that you are doing the right thing. Whether that's your family, her family, friends. It's probably going to be in her family, to be honest with you. But, why is he not working? What is he doing? Is he planning on getting a job? All that kind of stuff. Whether you end up finding out about it or not, it's something that you just basically should expect. Con number 2. If you really like the fact that your job is an escape away from home, like during COVID, if you were used to going to the office and all of a sudden you weren't going to the office anymore, and that was really tough for you, and you really like, being out, being at your job, socializing, and even the commute back and forth just to kind of, chill out, readjust, you're going to lose that. We talked about finances before, but obviously you're going to have to trim back on some things. If I went back to work right now, we would have more income coming in. We would have more money to spend. There's going to be times where you wish you had that income and you're not. So that's something to consider. The last one is kind of theoretical, but I've often wondered how this might affect me if I decide to go back into the workforce in the future. How are people going to receive that? Is it going to be welcomed? Is it going to be seen as something good? Or is it going to hurt me trying to get back into, a standard 40-hour-a-week job? Now, let me talk about some of the pros. I have been able to gain a tremendous amount of trust with my child. My son, he's a mama's boy through and through. And don't worry, moms, we'll talk about that in just a second. But he really relied on my wife completely. And I just didn't have that trust factor with him. And honestly, it bothered me. I mean, my dad, I feel like he could have hung me over a cliff and held on to me and said, "I got you." And I'd be like, "All right, cool. Dad's got me." I didn't have that. And so over this amount of time, I've been able to gain a tremendous amount of trust and relationship with my son. And, it's really panned out the way that I hoped that it would be. Now, moms, excuse me, I said don't worry because my mom's still a mom, or my son's still a mama's boy, and if he gets hurt or if he's feeling sick or if there's anything and there's me and her together, he's still wanting her to help him. So don't worry, that doesn't go away completely. The other thing is just a greater influence with my child. So I found myself getting aggravated on Saturday mornings whenever the to-dos of work wasn't there and I was there and I seen just behaviors or tendencies or habits or things that was going on and how my child was acting, and I didn't like it because I wanted to have more input on certain things and I wasn't able to do that. And so this has allowed me to obviously pour into him, help him to learn from me as well, and create habits and behaviors that I appreciate. Another pro, it gives you the chance to make the household how you would like it. So maybe you don't really like how clean the house was, or how the house is, just the general to-do arrangement, the managing of the household. And with two people working, it's tough because both people are trying to chip in, and it's just you don't have that time to devote to it. This way you do, and you can really create an atmosphere that you have been seeking or longing for. So that has been a really good thing. The last thing is really awesome, and that is all of the scheduling, travel, unexpected events. You're here to take care of those things. So it's a scramble when both people are working, right? We've all been in that situation. All of a sudden your kid has a snow day, or they're sick, or they're this, or they're that, and you're like having that conversation with your spouse saying, hey, I took off work last time. Are you able to take off work? It alleviates so much of that stress that otherwise is there. Also, if you have a spouse who has a very demanding job or travels a lot, this also is a way that you can be that steady at the house. You can hold down the fort, keep everything under control, take your kids to their sporting events still and to school and pick them up and drop them off, and you're not scrambling trying to figure out where those arrangements are going to happen. I mean, honestly, sometimes in life, in these last year and a half, I'm like, how does somebody do this if both people are working? So that's a really good thing. Some additional kind of weird things to consider. One, I love summers, I always have, but summers are going to be your busiest time as a stay-at-home dad. So you think about all the stuff that you have in the winter. Now, obviously, I'm Midwest, North-ish, so that might not be as much the case if you live, down south, but all of the stuff has to happen inside the house, but now you're throwing all those outdoor chores, the mowing, the weed eating, the blowing, taking care of the landscape, all that's getting added to it. And so it really is a tough time. Also, your child's not going to be in school. So unless you end up trying to do some kind of summer daycare, which I don't know. For me, that was, we wanted to avoid daycare and the costs that come with it. So I have my son home with me nonstop. I have all the same stuff, the cooking and cleaning that happened before, all the household management, doing bills and so on. But then I got that outdoor, aspect to it, and it is tough. Summers are tough. If your spouse, so I might have to whisper this one, but no, if your spouse works from home, it is going to make being a stay-at-home dad a little tougher. Even if you have a great arrangement, you guys have come up with a great plan, you're still going to have somebody who's coming out of that office every now and again and saying, oh, is that what Dad gave you for a snack? Or how long you been watching TV? Stuff like that. It's something to consider. Okay, I'm not saying it's should make or break the situation, but it is something additional that otherwise you wouldn't have to factor in. A couple the other kind of weird thing or additional thing to consider. Some people's responses to this has been so positive, it's been crazy. Sometimes people find out that you're a stay-at-home dad and they just think it is the greatest thing they have ever heard in their life. So on the opposite aspect of some people hating on you, there's some people, they'll come up, whether it's just like they think it's really cool that a guy's doing all the cooking and cleaning. There's other people that are like, think you're like part of like the women's empowerment movement and, you're helping your woman and whatever it is, I don't mind it. I'll take it. But some of it's been like way over the top, more positive than what I expected. So what is our arrangement to kind of wrap this up? Basically, it's very easy to figure out for me to explain to you how we operate. Basically, my wife works. I do everything else. I cook, I clean, I do the finances, I do the grocery shopping, I do anything else that I can possibly do. Now, sometimes she'll do stuff just because she wants to or wants to help or whatever, but the arrangement is I do everything else. And one of the main reasons I set it up that way, or that I agreed to that, is that's how I would want it to be if it was the other way around. So Let me give one caveat though, where credit is due. If my wife had her way, she would play and spend time with my son every waking hour of the day if she could. So once she gets off of work, basically her job is working and then spending a bunch of time with my son. And that's what she wants to do, and that's cool with me. And that gives me a little bit of time to get some stuff done in the evenings. But hey, if there's something that you want to do and your family's on board, make it the best, do the best you can. Make some really awesome meals, look up some different recipes. That's the funny thing too, is, my wife will send recipes, like things I made or cooked, or they'll call and say, what are you doing? Oh, we're having breakfast. We're having pancakes and bacon and sausage and all this. And they're like, oh, tell them to come over and help my husband cook and all that, that kind of stuff. So you kind of fight off the naysayers by making sure that you're rocking it and just try to enjoy it and have fun. So I recommend it. Might or might not be right for you, but that's for you to decide. Thanks.